Reggie Ratliff. And joining me for this first segment is my co-host, my co-laborer in the vineyard, and expert investment advisor, Terrence Hollingsworth. How you doing, Terrence?
Hello, Dr. Ratliff. How's it going
All is
today?
well, man. All is well. You could tell that it's that time of year where people start spending their money and going to the mall. The traffic is off the chain. Last day of school for many public schools is Friday. So, from the 6th to 17th of December, all the way through the 24th, that by midnight is going to be packed everywhere, everywhere. So,
Oh well,
that,
is it the same with online shopping or is it not?
it's crazy online. Same thing. You would think that the traffic would be lighter because many people are online shopping, but that just brought up another layer of people. At least going to the mall in Tyson or Potomac Mills here in DC or in Maryland. Man, it's packed.
Yeah, believe it or not, they've been saying the mall traffic has been as strong as it's been. COVID, people being indoors, it's
Yep.
led to people just wanting to be out and going back to something that feels normal. So,
Right. Some normalcy. Yeah. I mean, can't blame them. But I will say, and I'm sure you can attest to this, please, everybody out there, those who are listening under the sound of my voice, do not Do not spend your bonus into your bonus, all right? Your cost of living increase check or your paycheck for that matter, or increase your credit limit to go shopping.
right.
It's tempting, but please don't do it. Terry.
You be paying off this Christmas right in time for next year's Christmas.
Exactly. Oh, and don't get in a pattern of quest and saying, I know I'm going to get a refund check from the IRS, so I'll just
Oh
use that
yeah,
money to pay down my credit card bill. Don't do it. The goal is to create wealth, generational
absolutely.
wealth, and build for your future and your children's future and your children's children's future. Right, Terry?
Absolutely. We got a rate hike today. Um, so, your credit card statements, that should go up, and, if you haven't bought a place yet, guess what? You're going to be able to afford less or put more money down, right?
Right, right.
So, it's just it's the space we live in. And so, at the end of the day, you know, uh, let's keep investing. Let's keep these conversations right because as much as we do in terms of social justice work and fighting
Yes.
for living wages and things like this, does not matter if you don't have a basic understanding of investments and being able to beat inflation. There's not many ways to do so. Investing is the way that you have to do it.
And I'm glad you said that because our master financial investment class will be held on tomorrow. And just like tonight, it'll be our last class for
Yep.
2022. So this is your last opportunity to receive some expert advice from Terrence and economic news and just being able to be more fruitful with your shopping and your finances. So we meet every Thursday, including tomorrow, Thursday, um, at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time to 6:30 p.m. And to join our class, contact me at sratliff68 at yahoo.com. You see it right there on the screen. In turn, I will send you a Zoom link to access the class, and we'll talk finance and the holiday season. So those who are celebrating Hanukkah, those who are celebrating Kwanzaa, those who are celebrating Christ, please make sure that you do it in a way that is pleasing and loving and fruitful and not spend all your money.
Absolutely. So, who do we have on the show tonight?
We have the great Jasmine Lopez. I'm so excited to have a conversation with her this evening. But before we do that, we've heard a string of bad news, Terry, over the past month or so with people passing on to glory. But I want to give a shout out to Deborah Vine. Deborah Vine with The Answer, a nonprofit organization, was recognized as the top nonprofit organization in the United States. So she was on CNN, Heroes. She is a hero nationally, but we knew her in Maywood before she hit the big time. So congratulations to Deborah Vine. I tried to reach her, Terry, to say let's have one more show next week, but I'm sure everybody's pulling her coattail and trying to get interviews and to invite her to different events. But just
And
want
trying to
to
get that Christmas shopping done.
Yeah, exactly. The combination. So congratulations, Ms. Vine, and continued success. Hopefully she'll be able to come on and talk about that great experience in 2023. So with that said, um, we have a great guest. Her name is Jasmine Lopez. Ms. Lopez is a Latina creative entrepreneur and storyteller who has worked in the creative industry for over 15 years. Ms. Lopez is passionate about the power of our stories and partnering with the next generation of creative of color to thrive, which inspired her to co-found a nonprofit in Maywood, where she has called home for over the past 5 years. The Firehouse Dream is a creative arts nonprofit organization that focuses on being a safe space for BIPOC creatives to thrive in every area of their lives. We'll talk about that as far as the acronyms in just a moment. She does this through three pillars: creative entrepreneurship, which is sorely needed in the village of Maywood; mental health, which is also sorely needed and need to be addressed more often in the village of Maywood; and our favorite, financial wellness. We're not leading the Firehouse Dream. Mrs. Lopez loves spending time with her husband and three daughters and being fully engaged with her neighbors for community advocacy. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on Mrs. Jasmine Lopez of the Firehouse Dream.
Hello.
How are you?
So good. So excited to be here with you.
Yes, and we're excited to have you on the podcast. I know your schedule is extremely busy. Great things are happening for yourself, the Firehouse Dream, and in turn, you through the village of Maywood is really making a positive difference in people's lives. So let's get started.
Yes.
Who is Jasmine Lopez?
Who is Jasmine Lopez? So, I mean, my bio, you did such a great job with my bio. I am a creative at heart. I love photography. I love the opportunity to be able to capture and tell stories and be able to highlight maybe stories we often don't hear about. And so I have spent the last 10 plus years of my 15-year career in photography, really intentionally doing that to amplify the stories of our communities and being able to give agency over our storytellers and allow them the space to share their stories. So I am a storyteller. I'm passionate about community advocacy, making sure that there's representation at the table, making sure that we identify who's missing, and figuring out how do we make sure everyone gets to the table. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have three beautiful girls. And so figuring out how to navigate through home work life as a mom and as someone who deeply loves my community, finding that rhythm is a challenge, but I'm for it and I love it. And I love that I get to do both.
Now you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned advocacy. You also talked about, people who are not at the table or being able to get that opportunity, just kind of put into my own words, of those who may not have a voice through photography and storytelling. And they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but you complement that picture by stories. So you're accomplishing 1,000 words part. So you're giving the best of both worlds, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's, when we engage in storytelling, and there's another way that you could phrase this, considered community mental health. And when we can engage in storytelling, it creates this opportunity to experience togetherness, healing, belonging, connection. And ultimately, that's what I want to be. I want to encompass that in every aspect of my life, not just in the work that I do in the nonprofit sector now, but as an individual, as a neighbor. I want to be able to identify how I can foster that kind of space where we experience belonging, connection, and togetherness.
I admire that about you. You hit on three great pillars. Each pillar is very instrumental in the growth and sustainability in the village of Maywood. My question for you is, what brought you to the village of Maywood? You're a young lady from the southwest side of Chicago, and somehow your journey brought you to Maywood. And the time, it couldn't be any better, to tell you the truth, because those pillars are sorely needed. So what brought you to Maywood, and how have you been able to establish yourself in an organic way?
Yeah, so I've actually lived in the Proviso district for like the last 12 years. And it's wild to think, Broadview, Hillside, now Maywood. And officially I've been in Maywood 6 years now, which is, again, the time passes by so quickly. But honestly, we were in a journey of looking for a home. And Maywood was really the top community that was, on the forefront of availability towards us and making sure top financial wellness, making sure that we stick in budget. And I saw an opportunity to ask myself, we know what the challenges are in our community, right? Like we're not oblivious to it. And so when I moved to Maywood, I asked myself, like, well, what can I do? What can I do as a neighbor? What assets do I bring to the table? What opportunities can I provide to help partner with my neighbors to see the change that we want to see? And I'm like, well, my asset is not, economic development, but the creative field has provided amazing opportunities for me to be able to provide an income beyond minimum wage. And this is a sector in a field where higher education isn't required, where it's all about network and it's all about your portfolio and having the right equipment and the tools. And so I began to dream up this idea that now is called the Firehouse Dream. But I began asking, like, what could it look like to have this beautiful loft space in Maywood that Chicago has tons of these kinds of locations, but we don't really have that here. And so I began dreaming this up. And that's when I felt this inclination to go on the MLS, and we found the Firehouse for sale. Wow. And that's really where the steps to this dream of, like, could this be, started to become a reality for me.
Nice. It reminds me of a firehouse in the North Lawndale area. I want to make sure I get his name right. I think his name was Reverend Phil Jackson. And
yes.
So go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I know him. He's a dear friend. We go to the same church community. When we were in process of waiting for our 501c3, he came and gave me a tour. He gave me permission to pick his brain and learn about what their programs and projects look like. And I love the work that he's doing over in
phenomenal
Lawndale.
Program. Yes, mm-hmm. His wife is also phenomenal. I used to work for her at the North Lawndale Community Center, LCDC, Lawndale Christian Development Center. And, the work that they do is just phenomenal. That whole strip, including the church across the street, they care about their community. And he's right in the heart of North Lawndale, Reverend Jackson and his wife. So great connections. I'm glad you know of them. Very phenomenal people. But your vision, the Firehouse Dream in Maywood, you said it was on the MLS, and it did sit there for a while. I remember growing up in Maywood that it was a firehouse, an active one, until they decided to move forward with that. And then I know that PLCCA had programs there. I used to go in there. And so when I heard that somebody bought the firehouse, my thought was, who buy a firehouse? Like, you need some resources to be able to flip that, So how were you able to do that in such a tangible way?
That's a good question, because the assumption would be that we had those resources. And honestly, when you have a dream, sometimes it's not having all the answers to how can you make this dream a reality, because if I'm completely transparent, we did not have the money or the resources to purchase it, let alone renovate it and put the time that it was going to take into getting it up to code, right? And so for us, it was about obedience to this idea and this dream of what could be, and taking one small step at the same time. And in the same journey of trying to make the Firehouse Dream a reality, I was going through my own personal healing journey with my mental health and with finances as well. Growing up in a single parent, home, in financial insecurity, it does something to you. It impacts how you see yourself. It impacts how you see the world. And so I, at the same time, was doing my own healing as I'm pursuing this dream to figure out how I can partner with the community, right? And so it's been a journey, but it's been through creative strategy that has really allowed for us to figure out creative ways to renovate. We DIY'd. My husband has been amazing, and he's super crafty and hands-on. And so he was able to do a lot of the work DIY. And so that has been, really the journey to how do we make this dream a reality and it feel accessible, right? So that anyone who comes and see this space would assume, oh, they must come from XYZ. But really, we want it to be like, no, anybody who has a dream can dream big, and you take baby steps to making it a reality. And that's what we did. And we hope that our story would inspire and encourage other people to do that as well.
It's a truly impactful story, and I'm glad that you're on this podcast to share your testimony. Because they say without a test, there's no test. Without a test, there's no testimony. And I'm sure with prayer and being persistent yet patient, because you said it took a little while that you've reached this goal. This vision has come reality. I just want to interject that the background, everybody out there, the Firehouse Dream is on St. Charles Road, right in front of the train station. So,
Yes.
you want to give the exact address, or do you not? It's up to you.
Yeah. So we are right off of St. Charles Road and 5th Avenue. It's 511 St. Charles Road.
Awesome. So let's talk about the programs. What kind of programs does the Firehouse Dream have that's offered to community, provides the township, the state of Illinois, the nation?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have had to do so much pivoting due to COVID and just its restrictions. And so kind of how we dreamed it up shifted into this concept of a mentorship program that's 12 weeks long. We identified what could it look like to bring in 10 young adults that either live in Proviso, go to school in Proviso between the ages of 15 and 22, and pay them a stipend that equates to $15 an hour, and where they can come and learn about creative entrepreneurship, mental health, and financial wellness. And so we've done that for the last 15, 18 months. And then now we're going even deeper in our mental health programming, which we launched in January of this year. And as an organization, we have a huge commitment to being proactive to the needs of our young adults and youth with mental health specifically. And so we have been asking those questions in partnership with our young adults, like how can we proactively create solutions, tangible solutions to meet the needs of our youth? And so those are the two main programming that we do. We do a mentorship program, and then now we've launched mental health. And really that's where we are putting a lot of our time and energy right now is our mental health programming. And I can share more deeply about that if you'd like.
Please, by all means. The audience came to hear you, not me, so go ahead.
So we have 4 main objectives with our mental health programming: to provide one-on-one direct services. I understand the challenges that comes to having accessibility and access to mental health. And so we provide 12 sessions for free. We are advocates for mental health. We are not the professionals, but we have partnered with several culturally competent licensed therapists who want to give back to this young generation, who have committed to a reduced cost service for therapy sessions. And so we pay for the service, and our young adults get to look on our website, and they get to have agency over who they decide to talk with and partner with. Some of these private practices that we've partnered with is like Yo Soy Ella. We have another organization, private practice called the Oasis Project, and many other private practices where individual therapists have committed their time to be able to provide these reduced services. So that's objective number 1. Objective number 2 is to provide group therapy. So I touched on community-based mental health. I think there is so much value and such a key importance to clinical mental health, but also I think community-based mental health is overlooked. And oftentimes we try to get an individual to who's in a mental health crisis or a challenge to go straight into talking to a professional. But our goal really is to destigmatize and normalize the topic of mental health, and where we create safety around it, where we help them transition to wanting and feeling ready and supported to receive those one-on-one services. So we have a ton of group therapy sessions starting in January, from yoga to group sessions. And then we are also launching an English-based parent support group. So anyone in the Proviso district who has a teen struggling with their mental health and are looking for support, we are offering that service as well. And all of these workshops and opportunities are free. Our third objective is to be able to create content and resources that can be viewed digitally and touched in person, tactile. And so we've created a ton of digital content like breathwork, to panel discussions, to our young adults who come and share their stories about their mental health challenges. We believe, again, about storytelling, the power of togetherness and connection, and that can really be expressed and normalized when our peers or our youth are seeing their peers share their story around mental health. And then, so that's our digital content. And then our physical content is we created a mental health kit, and we collaborated and co-created this kit with District 209 students, and we asked them if we were were to put a physical resource together, what would you like to see inside of it? And they shared, we want fidget tools, we want journal, we want, stickers, inspiring phrases. And based on their feedback, we created this kit. We recently received funding that allowed for us to put 150 of those kits together. And we've officially launched them. We'll be at PMSA actually tomorrow to pass those out. And our dream is to be able to provide one of these kits for free to every young adult. That is a big dream because it's going to require a lot of dollars to do so, but you never know, anything can happen. And then last but not least is the fourth objective, which is to do a mobile pop-up in a vintage trailer where we pop up to different locations throughout the Proviso district. And instead of expecting the community to come to us, we go out into the community and we create space to do storytelling through photography, film, and podcasting. So that is where we are going very deep in our mental health and figuring out how we can be proactive and partner well with our neighbors.
You're being proactive. You are definitely providing direct services. You are collaborating. You're partnering. You're out there in the grind, pounding the pavement, the grassroots level. I mean, what more can you ask for someone who is affiliated and directly connected to a community such as Proviso Township? So I give you kudos because that takes a lot of work to be able to impact. You talking about youth as well? You said 15 to 22?
15 to 22, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And I take it that they've responded based on the demands, right? And the service you provide, right?
Yes, and I have such a commitment to centering and amplifying their voices that all of our decision making really is done in collaboration with them in how we create our programming, our curriculum, and our mental health resources. And so I think because we center their voices and we're so intentional in that, they feel like their voices matter. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want to create a space where they feel like their voices matter in the concerns of what's going on here in the Maywood Proviso Township.
Their voices matter. You're listening to them and you're turning that ear into action. And I love that. I know our time is starting to run short. I wish we could talk for another 15, 20 minutes, but I know Terry's going to flash that 5-minute sign pretty soon. But some comments have come in from like Jeremy Horn and Connie Wells saying, just a lot of things that you're doing in the community. That's great. And the fact that you've been able to do this starting off with little funding and then you just kind of been building, it makes me want to ask you this question, Jasmine. In particularly Maywood, which is a majority minority community, how have you been received from the residents and from other community organizations? I don't know if the private entities are Maywood based or whatever, but in specifically Maywood, how have you been received overall?
Oh gosh, I've been so intentional in building trust and relationship with my neighbors that anytime I share the story and the vision of who we are, everyone loves it. And I love that we get to be representative of the multi-generational, ethnic, racial diversity that we are here in Maywood and Proviso. And we see that from our staff to the young adults who come into our space, to the community members who come and visit and check out the space and come to our open houses. We are so intentional about making sure that the community's voices are heard and listened to. And so we do that as well. So it's very important to me to make sure that that we are working in tandem, in connection with our young adults. I do not believe I'm the savior of Maywood. I do not believe that I can save Maywood, but what I do believe is that as a resident, and as long as I continue to live here and forever, that I will do my part in terms of what it means to be a good neighbor.
Well, you're doing your part. You're doing more than a part, okay? You are doing a really good amount of work, yeoman's work. I knew about you. We talked in the past, even before this podcast, and I thank God for young people such as yourself and the work that you're doing. I wanted to ask you about your staff. It seems like it's a fairly young staff that you're working with. Is that correct? Young people?
Yes. So what we do is once our youth go through our program, we try to create opportunities for them to then be hired onto our staff and help move forward, not only to work in the vision and mission of TFD, but also partner in helping create content for other nonprofits and organizations within the community. So right now we're only a staff of 2. Over the summer, we did have a larger staff of young adults from District 209. But my co-laborer partner, Maya Hill, she's an alumna of PMSA.
Nice.
I love working with Gen Z. I think they are amazing people.
They are.
And it's just been so neat to see how they see their community, what their thoughts are on mental health, and really just giving them the space to learn and flourish and be developed at the same time. It's hard and challenging, but it's amazing to see the fruit of it.
I love their brain. I love the vision. It's really impressive, talking to Gen Zs and just what they see, as far as they focus. And with that said, I want to ask you finally about the other pillar, which is the financial part, financial wellness, creative entrepreneurship. Talk about that for a few moments, if you can, and what you've done with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe in order for us to have thriving lives, we have to have a healthy relationship with self, how we see the world, and money. And if we do not have a healthy sense with all those three things I just mentioned, it's going to be hard to build a thriving business. And so our goal is not just to teach skill sets like photography, graphic design, brand identity, where you can make an income off of it, but also to encourage and help our kids, our young adults, I call them kids sometimes, help our young adults to learn what is their story. Their lived experience has impacted them. And it does impact them, but it doesn't define them. So how do we navigate through that? How do we gain language for it and build healthy relationships with money and our sense of self so that we can pursue our dreams and be able to create the change that they want to in turn be as they grow up and find whatever career pathway that they determine to take.
It's part of your vision, not to put words in your mouth, but it's part of your vision through the entrepreneurship program as far as financial in part, because that's very, very, very much important for them to be able to reinvest their time and money in the village of Maywood in particular.
Absolutely. I think so. Creativity is really powerful and beautiful, and it does create amazing opportunities to be able to make an income off of it. But at the end of the day, like, what's your legacy? How are you using these skill sets to amplify your passions or your concerns for the community? So we talk about that all the time. We say, okay, now with photography, how can we amplify a specific topic? So right now we're doing that through mental health. In other ways, we've done that. They've done a panel discussion on being a food desert. Another group of mentees did a photo project that highlighted different families in the Maywood community and asked them curated questions. We did a senior project in partnership with Quinn Center to listen to the older generation and their stories and their lived experiences. And so really they get to identify what topics they want to implement, their skill sets that they're learning. And some of them do come in with business ideas. So the goal is by the end of that cohort that they're done, the hope is that they will be equipped with knowing how to build their website, have a brand, a logo, photo content to be able to launch their business.
Nice. Someone just put up there, Miss Connie Rouse, you see that, say that you also have a partnership with God's Heritage Church in Maywood.
Yes.
Nice.
Invest the proviso. Yeah. So when COVID first hit us and it put everything on a standstill in terms of programming, that was the first thing. The first question I asked is how are our neighbors going to eat? And I connected with Randall, and a bunch of us community organizers came together and did this food distribution. It outgrew too fast here in the space. So then we moved over to God's Heritage, and they have continued that program. And it's amazing to see what they've done with it.
That's fantastic. What a powerful ministry. Randy McFarland, by the way, is a co-founder of Best of Proviso. He and also with Jessica Jackson and others as well. Shout out to them for the phenomenal work that they're doing. Also, having a refrigerator in front of the Hampton home in Maywood, right across the street from Irvin Elementary School. I won't mention Irvin anymore because I went to Garfield. I just had to put that out there geographically. But they're doing great work, and you have some phenomenal partnerships with some phenomenal people. Just one more thing about Randy. I've been telling Randy this, Jasmine, for like 20 years. Bruh, run for mayor, Maywood. What are you doing? Just run. Randy McFarland, what you waiting for? Just run.
He's awesome. He is so awesome. And I love getting to work with all of these organizations and churches where we see the value of working together to move forward, and bring the change that we want to see here in Maywood.
Absolutely. I love that spiritual element as well. What does the future look for the Firehouse Stream? You got some great programs currently. You've done in the past. You got some getting started in January. what is long term look for at Firehouse Dream?
Yeah, long term is making sure we're sustainable. I say starting a nonprofit is hard, but
Yeah.
sustaining it is
Yeah.
even harder. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're in this growing pains. We're, currently in the process of moving from startup to emerging. And really our goal is to stay rooted here in Maywood and in the Proviso district. There are so many other amazing programs in the Chicagoland area. And my conviction is we have over 4,000 students here that need amazing programming here. So we want to be rooted here. Just our challenge right now is funding, is getting access to those dollars. So we just recently hired a grant writer who's helping us. I was doing it for the last 2 years and it just became too much for me. Yes. So I'm excited for those new opportunities. We just secured a $25,000 grant. That's a health-based grant. So that's going to continue to help us move our mental health programming. And ultimately, we just want the space to be a space for the community. We want it to be a space where anyone who walks through our doors, again, can experience belonging, safety, and connection. So that would be my long-term goal.
Yeah, anytime you have questions or whatever from a funny aspect, it's a community, right? I'm always willing to lend any advice or support, because it does take a community. So you definitely have an advocate right here, and I'm glad to know that you are not continuing to try to do everything on your own, because that is very taxing.
Cannot do it alone. I actually took a sabbatical over the summer and was just did not realize how exhausted I was. And really, I want to end with this. I feel like the Firehouse Dream is a community dream. And so I don't hold my hand tight onto it. And so whenever it's time for me to release it and move it on to the next leader who wants to lead this program, I will do that when the time comes. Yes. I'm just excited that I get to hold it right now and get to lead it and get to partner with such amazing Gen Z.
You're a phenomenal young lady, a phenomenal leader. And with the time remaining, Jasmine, I'd like to give you the final word for your audience, any words of encouragement for the youth, the young adults who may be listening, just overall. You have the stage for a couple of minutes. So by all means.
Yeah, I'd say give yourself permission to dream as big as possible and to not be afraid to go after those dreams. It may take a little bit longer and that's okay, but just take one baby step at a time. And one of my biggest encouragements has been that delay doesn't mean denial. So every time we experience a hardship or a trial that paused us being able to move forward the Firehouse Dream, I leaned into that and was just one baby step at a time. And so I dreamed up this idea over 5 years ago, and now to see where we are, all because of these small baby steps. So that would be my encouragement. Dream big and go after those dreams.
Nice. Dream big. Don't let anything stop you from accomplishing those dreams. Delay does not mean denial. It just means you continue to push and pray, and things will happen. And Jasmine Lopez surely is a witness to that dream coming a reality. Hence the name of her organization, the Firehouse Dream. Amen. Hallelujah. Powerful words by Ms. Jasmine Lopez. And with that said, that concludes not just this podcast for tonight, but our podcast for the remainder of 2022. It's been an honor and a privilege to share this space with our guests each and every week. Every week has been a phenomenal guest who bring a lot of chemical stuff, a lot of substance, not rhetoric. We had doers, not just talkers. And so I'd like to thank you. Thank you for those who listen. Special thanks to our special guest, Jeremy Horn, who came on once in a while to share the stage. And to my co-host and co-laborer in the Vineyard, Terrence Hollingsworth, leadership at Diversity Today Media, and myself as the host of Let's Talk Maywood. I'm a proud Maywoodian. I love you all out there. Be safe. Don't spend all your money. And I look forward to seeing you in 2023. God bless you. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And good night.